in at 4:59. I did notice in the agenda, or not the agenda, in the minutes, we actually have Jill's name as Jill Scott. Unless there was a change I didn't hear about.
I'm not really sure where that came from.
All right. First is risk management. I feel like this is going to be you, Debbie. I did have just a couple of questions. So in line 3, and I know it says this in the New Hampshire School Boards Association policy as well, the Shaker Regional School District shall properly manage its resources for safety of students. How are we measuring that properly? Like properly according to whom?
That's a very good question. We maintain the insurance, we review the insurance, we make sure we submit our values, and then they also, Primex also oversees to make sure they're within reasonableness. So that's the only properly I can think of.
Properly typically implies an improper way to do something. So I don't know if that's...
Yeah, not carrying insurance would be improper.
Well, right. But if there's no one to, like, I feel like that word is just... The wording is just strange.
Get rid of properly.
Yeah, because that just calls into question what improperly is.
Well, but that brings up a question, because if we're managing our resources for the safety of students, employees, that means that we're making sure things are in proper repair, that we're not going to let, like the middle school stairs, we closed those off for a while when they were improperly maintained. So that might be the properly managed piece that they're talking about.
Okay. We can absolutely keep it. It just felt like a very
strange manage wording. Is fine and just get rid of it properly, but I think that's probably what that's referring to.
Okay. And like I said, I know that it said it in the New Hampshire School Boards Association policy as well. It doesn't say who is overseeing the fact that this is properly managed. So, I have a note here about lines 6 through 12. Realizes that the assumption of some predictable risk. How does that happen? So can you just sort of walk me through sort of the process for that?
So we have set a deductible list that we feel can be met without too much trouble, without setting it too high and putting the budget at risk.
Okay.
It's a pretty typical amount that most districts carry.
Okay. And then I think my last question on this particular policy was that last paragraph, 39, and then it ends on 5 on the next page. Why are we removing that? It's still recommended by the New Hampshire School Boards Association.
It's not something that we do or we have ever done, quite honestly, so we removed it.
Nope. Yep.
Is there a reason we don't do a risk management audit?
I don't believe there's a reason that we don't, it's just a matter that we haven't. And quite honestly, I'm not sure if the superintendent's the right person to be doing an annual risk management audit. That would have to be from some sort of outside sources and non-biased.
So that's what the New Hampshire School Boards Association one outlines, that there's an external you prepare for it, but there's the board authorizes the superintendent to seek professional risk management advice if necessary in order to develop, implement, maintain, and audit the effective risk management program for the system.
So it used to be that we would have an annual review with Primex. And before that, it was Sue Puddington, who was with the school board, something or other. But when Primex came along, we had a person that would come out every year, and Sally Turner would meet with me, and we would review the policies we had in place, the losses, things like that. They have stopped doing that.
Okay.
I get a report, I can log into Primex, and I can get most of that information. But some of the stuff, they're not going to know that we have certificates of insurance for all the contracted vendors. So there's stuff that's not all included in that one spot, which would be very cumbersome to try to put together. But there is, it's called Primex Access 3P3, and I can look at all the losses and I can get the year's history from that.
Because it just, I mean, if there's no risk audit done, if something does break, how would we find out about it? We wouldn't, because we're not going through an audit, so I don't.
But your risk audit's not going to tell you if something's going to break anyway.
Not necessarily like a thing, but the sort
there's
of what
no
you have in
coverage or-
exactly. So that's, I sort of feel like that's an important piece to ensure that we are properly covered, especially because we're dealing with children.
Yeah. So I know in the past, when we first went to Primex, they would not cover us for special education. And they sent the letter to the board chair to say that while we're going with Primex, we could not be covered for the special education costs because of the history of all of the hearings and disputes that we had. So they do send things to the board chair, as well as, any correspondence also goes to the board chair, as well as me and Michael.
I have not
There's-
seen that correspondence.
Because we haven't had any, but that's what their history has been.
Interesting.
So if you'd like to keep that in there, we could look at what outside agency would be able to conduct that.
Personally, I would feel better with it in there. I think that's a better safe than sorry kind of situation. Just having somebody come in and double check that we are doing things appropriately is, probably a good thing.
So I'm not sure this is really a risk management audit that they're performing. I think it was looking more to reporting to the board, these are the policies we have in place, this is the values that we have in place, this is the losses from the past history. I think that's what more this report is.
Okay, well, I still think that if somebody comes in and they can have a look at some of that and they're looking at it from an outside lens too,
Right.
and they're better able to pick up, inconsistencies or even issues.
Yep.
So I do think that is important to keep. Did you have anything?
No, that makes sense.
So we will look into that because there'll be budget impacts on
Right,
that.
cost
So
of that.
we'll have to see what that
Absolutely, we can
Yeah.
definitely look into that, and that is one that, when we do take it to the board, that can definitely be a conversation there as well.
I can try to find out who does those audits.
So as for the policy itself, the only amendment is on line number 3.
I believe so. That sounds correct. Well, and not striking the final. All right, so.
You feel that needs to go to the full board for first reading?
Because there's the potential for budget impacts, I think I would like to take it to the board just to have the discussion. Because of the budget impacts, or possible budget impacts, excuse me. All right, EIB, I did not have any additional questions. It looks like it's the same as the New Hampshire School Boards Association policy, and I didn't have any questions there.
Either.
And EID, the same as the New Hampshire School Boards Association. I didn't have any issues with their verbiage or any of the content through that one. For FF, the naming of facilities and programs, I liked the New Hampshire School Boards Association policy better.
Okay. Because of the specificity?
Yeah, I think so. I actually, and this is just sort of an aside, I've had people ask me why it's Belmont Middle School, Belmont High School, as opposed to Shaker Regional. I don't know. So this was one that I definitely looked at with a little bit more of a, oh, this is interesting. I didn't actually think about that sort of lens. I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with ours, but I do appreciate the specificity with the New Hampshire School Boards Association policy.
So would you like to revamp our current policy to add those specifics, or?
I would, but I am very open to other opinions. I know it's not. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I can see both sides.
Quick question, when we take these to the board, I cannot remember because my brain is just mush today. Do we also provide the New Hampshire School Boards Association policy when we bring it to the board, or do we just?
We don't tend to. It's kind of recommendations from the committee.
Okay.
So there's pros and cons to keeping a policy as general as
Right.
possible compared to the specifics like the school boards association.
Mhm.
I would be under the assumption that that's what when the original development of this policy, back in 2014 was the last time it was reviewed.
Yeah. I
Wanted
don't
to
even
keep
know
it
when it
general
was adopted.
at that time. So again, there's pros and cons to having the general policy compared to those that lays out specifics like the school board association, because then you might get hung up in the specificity of a specific policy compared to the generalization one.
I think while I still prefer the New Hampshire School Boards Association one, I think I can be okay with keeping this one as is.
I will say that this does not come up very often.
I know.
at all.
Yeah, but it has, right? I mean, in the past, I know that people have said like we're named the soccer field after Mike Hozorder or whatever. So it does occasionally creep in, right?
Yep.
So I can see being specific, but then also if you have it too specific, it does get muddy.
Well, I mean, again, I'd like to find a balance. So
Right.
if there's areas in the school board association that you feel should be included, but still keep sort of the integrity of a more general policy, you can amend ours to include some of those specifics compared to just adopting the school board association's policy as written.
Maybe we can adopt some of those general guidelines for naming the buildings or facilities and not necessarily going into the, the 1, 2, 3, 4 in item C in the school boards association. Or find some items in B that, actually, it looks like maybe we've taken some of these and just put them out of order in our.
Yeah, we have.
They're just mixed in
They've
there.
taken the specifics and generalized them in
Yes.
paragraphs, just out of order,
Okay.
so it doesn't encompass it. I do find interesting the line 7. Be named
On
without
ours?
gift. Yeah.
Yes.
Huh. Well, I don't love that.
No.
Yeah, that's the
That's
one,
like
that's the
pegging.
one thing I think
I don't
that
love
this
that.
committee should look at, because
Right. I don't like that at all.
The primary motivating factor for naming a facility or program will be to encourage private philanthropic support. I don't know if I like that in there either.
No. 4 through 7.
Yeah. I mean,
Does
the
that ever
facilities
come
and
up?
programs of the
That in the
Shaker
past?
Regional School District may be named for individuals and other entities is fine, but I think the primary voting
That
factor.
they wanted a gift.
do they require a gift in order to name?
They wrote it that way because somebody was seeking to have something named and they
Oh.
didn't want it.
All right, well,
Okay.
I would propose taking those lines out. Is,
2 sentences starting in line 5.
yeah. Primary motivating, wow, okay. Interesting, okay. It just doesn't need to be. Let's see.
Especially when the final determination rests with the board.
Right.
Strike through 5 through 7, starting with the second sentence of the paragraph.
I think that's the only thing that I would like taken out of this.
I do like in the school board associations under B, number 1, just kind of like the process, but must submit the written naming or dedication proposal by superintendent, and if there's some way that it happens.
Yeah.
Yep, I like that too.
The information relating to the guidelines, I mean, I don't know that we don't have to spell out guidelines, but proposals, I mean, there should be some kind of reasoning why
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
you're
that's,
doing that.
I agree, Joe, I think that's a good one to add in. B1.
Yeah.
One.
Maybe 2, like what's next?
Yeah.
And then a proposal from the board.
That's where the primary motivation should be throughout nature.
All right.
All right. I could be good with that one.
The next policy, GBAA, just proposing to remove that because that was replaced with policy ACAB that was adopted in 2021. That addresses this item, and the rules and procedures are much more specific than this policy because that was a change in the law in 2021. So this
I
just-
didn't know, I figured it was because we were replacing it with something else, but I didn't know which one.
Yep.
So I'm just gonna pull that one up.
It's policy ACAB.
Thank you.
And ACAB was drafted by our attorney when that change in the law occurred in 2021. The School Boards Association no longer even has this as a sample policy because they removed it from their database as well.
Okay. The only remaining question I have about this one then is, do we have a human rights officer? Is there? Oh.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yes.
it was like another way to say the school resource officer.
No.
I was like,
No, there was
that's
specific
weird.
training that
Wow.
Debbie, I had to go through as well.
Alright. Well, thank you. Okay, then I think, just reading through this. So this one looks a little bit more comprehensive than the other one. This one that we're proposing to remove. Like it's got,
It's the rules and procedures that go along with it that are
Okay.
very detailed.
okay,
So ACAB, the policy itself is a little more general, but it's the rules and procedures that we really needed to put into place to change the law, particularly around the investigative process.
okay, yes. It has like all of the definitions and things. Okay.
So focus on.
I feel
Yeah.
much better about this now that I
For
know
G-
which one we're replacing it with and what the rules and procedures.
GBCD that we're, the current policy, GBAB, that we're proposing to remove didn't have those specifics in it.
Right.
So when ACAB was written, it was general. It's rules and procedures that were the focus of the
Yep.
major
Okay.
changes.
Okay. I feel much better knowing that because I definitely, as I was going through this, was questioning things. So I think I can be okay with that.
All right.
These policies look like the ones we all have to take training on every year.
They are.
They are.
Yes.
Every year.
They are. All right. So yes, I'm good with removing that one. I lost my place when I went to go and search for that one. So GBCD, is that what we're on?
Yes.
Okay.
So line 17, you'll see a strike through. They cannot furnish us with the copies. They can't be shared. They can only certify to us that they have completed a successful background check.
Okay.
So that's why we struck
That's
that.
my question.
Yeah, yeah. So, and then the bottom,
Sorry, just a quick question on that. The person who is getting the background check done is coming to you and just saying, yep, did it.
no,
It's all
no,
good."
the vendor, the contractor.
Okay,
Contract.
thank you.
We run our
Thank you.
own background checks on our own employees and volunteers,
Mhm.
but if we contract with a vendor, the contract will state that the people have to have.
The people
Background
performing
checks.
the background check have said, you're good.
Yes,
Okay.
and it's the vendor, the contracted party that's saying, yes, they passed and they're fine.
And when new contracts come our way, we review those to make sure that clause is in there. as
Okay,
well.
excellent. That was my next question.
Yeah, and there have been a couple of times when it's been a small contractor, and they will pay to us, and we'll complete the fingerprint, send it
Okay.
in, and then we get the results, but typically they do their own.
Okay. And then for this last section, we're striking a fair amount.
Yeah, so if you'll notice, line 42 and beyond, it's the same wording as the fingerprinting. They must submit to fingerprint conducted by authorized employees of the
I
shaker.
did notice that. I
And it's just,
figured it
yeah,
was-
and the other thing is that last sentence, the SRSD may withdraw a conditional offer of employment and/or impose disciplinary action. Well, if they're not employees, we can impose disciplinary action,
Mhm.
so.
Right. All right, that was all I got for that one. GBEA. I did notice in the New Hampshire School Boards Association, they do make reference multiple times to the New Hampshire, the New Hampshire Code of Ethics. Is there a reason why we don't bring that up in ours?
No, there isn't a reason.
Um,
It was originally written, that code of ethics wasn't established.
Okay. I think I would like to add that. At the very least, reference to it. But I would like to add that.
The only question is, I don't think non-certified staff even get the New Hampshire DOE Code of Ethics, do they?
It is specific to
Teachers and credentialed people.
certified to credential.
Right,
So this encompasses all employees where the code of ethics that you're referring to is for certified employees, but I can see where we might want to reference that in here.
I think we should. Even if we said, adoption and incorporation of standard code of ethics for New Hampshire certified educators or something to that effect. Just to ensure that, they understand we're talking about people who hold that certification.
Yeah, they have to sign off on it to renew anyway.
Yep.
So how about we add section A,
That
the
was-
School Boards Association?
Yeah.
That's what I was
Good.
thinking.
Okay.
And then if we want to, we can add in the certification portion as well to that, since it,
Well, when they refer to code of ethics for New Hampshire educators, that would imply credentialed
okay,
employees.
okay. I didn't know that.
Yep.
One other question I have. The line, let's see, 5. Maintain high standards in their conduct both on and off duty. If they're doing things off duty, can we terminate them on that?
Yes.
And what does that high standards, what does that mean?
So, and that it's not defined what high standards are. However, these talking points in line 9 through 24 have been used in the past to address off-duty conduct that has been brought to the attention of the administration that needs to be investigated. That's standard practice. So, as for the term high standards, there's no definition of what would be considered a high standard. Specific definition.
Yeah.
It's clearly laid out in the code of ethics that
Right,
you
I
referred
know.
to earlier.
Yeah, I know that's her. I'm thinking of
Mhm.
everyone.
Yes. So yes, off-duty conduct can lead to potential termination depending on what that conduct is.
I think I'm good with that. And is all of this information is going to be included in any sort of staff handbook, right?
Our staff ethics policy? Yes.
So the New Hampshire School Boards Association also has a dissemination that says they'll receive it. The content of this policy should be included in every employee staff member handbook and or otherwise provided annually to each employee, designated volunteer, and contracted party.
So include that in our.
I would like to include that because I'm fairly certain we do that, right? So let's just have it in the policy, just. I believe that's it.